Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday night. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, coming to you live from an undisclosed location deep in the heart of American flyover country. Jay Campbell is coming to you from the great American dream. Jay, what's happening, brother?
What's up, Jeff, man? Good to see you, man. This is the first time you and I have done a podcast together in a long time.
It is. It's usually been somebody else, but tonight it's just Jay and I waxing eloquent. And Jay, I have to ask you this right off the bat. I meant to ask you this off camera, but there's chirp and there's chatter, even in our chat room, about supposedly Obama and Bush have been arrested and taken to Gitmo. Have you heard any of that? And is it more than anything other than just ridiculousness?
I've heard everything that you've heard. Obviously, you and I haven't talked about it specifically because we've been so busy and all of our other stuff in our lives going on right now. But I've heard everything, dude. I mean, the only thing I know for sure is that this is.
Yeah.
I mean, if the clone technology is where it really is, and as you and I talked about, a month ago when we watched Trump's, presidential, not State of the Union, but whatever it was when he did that emergency broadcast. And then they saw, you had Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi right after. I mean, none of those people to me look like people. So, I mean, at this point, and then we also know a CGI, right? Like anything is up. It goes by Deke. He's actually a friend of mine now. We talk a lot, back channel. And I know who he really is. He's an ex-member of, well, I won't say it, but just put it this way. He's a member of the intelligentsia.
Okay.
And he is now out. He's a private citizen now, and he travels the world. And he's, well-to-do guy. And he's basically told me that he has been trying to prove that QAnon was an absolute 100% psyop. And he sent me a message literally 2 days ago that said, Jay, I'm blown away that I have discovered that QAnon is not 100% a psyop, that it truly is, as other people have said, it's part truth with a lot of error. And the goal of QAnon was never to get arrests, Gitmos, citizen tribunals, all the nonsense that people like. I could name people right now if I wanted to, but I won't, that have said, it's all going to happen. You and I have said it, right? They're going to start arresting people.
I don't know enough about it. That's why I lean on guys like you and Rocky to give me the intel on this.
Well, so here's the
I'm
deal.
a one-trick pony. I don't know anything about this.
So the bottom line is that it was done, the QAnon thing was done to wake people up. And if it has penetrated the community of people who are like now something to this, because I've had, and you have too, Jeff, we've talked about this. I've had probably at least 150 people in the last 8 months of my life send me bizarre emails. For a lot of people that are signed on to my newsletter list for testosterone and life optimization, physical optimization, who will send me an email and say, hey, I watched you and Jeff on this thing you did, and you really piqued my curiosity. What the hell are you talking about, right? So I think that QAnon has tipped the balance of people that were completely asleep to now be more exploratory and ask people like you and me, like, what's going on? So I think it accomplished its purpose. I definitely know, too, that there's so much stuff going on around the world, Jeff, now, as you know, which we're going to get into some on this show, that's so unexplainable.
There is.
Like the veil has lifted or thinned, or however you want to like paraphrase it, to the point where it's like, I mean, bro, there's no explanation for the things that we're going to talk about on the show today.
And we should have Rocky Stucci back on the show before long, too. Rocky's show, the situation with Rocky Stucci on mojo50.com is blowing up. I mean, nearing 100,000.
Bring them on,
listeners.
Dude. I'd love to do that.
Absolutely. So we're talking about, Jay, you mentioned here the silent booms. Are those the booms that people are hearing, or is it a different boom that you're talking about?
Well, so I don't know, but if you want to share that screen with the Zero Hedge article, you want me to do it?
Go ahead and do it.
Okay, let me do that real quick here. Hold on, let me just pull it up, make sure I got it on this.
Because you sent me that email, and there's strange events going on all over the planet. It booms and lights and just craziness.
So you can see that. So apocalyptic sounds in the sky, no explanation for mysterious booms and flashes of light all across America. So this was sent to me yesterday.
I don't see it yet. Oh, there it is. I got it.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, there's a little bit of delay, but this was sent to me yesterday, and it was published, I think, late Saturday night. And of course, this is Zero Hedge, guys. So this is not, an alternative conspiracy site. Some people will say that Zero Hedge is always focusing on the gloom and doom, and they probably do. But this is a very, mainstream site. In the financial community, the financial world, heavily. This is one of the most world. And, you know, we could scroll all the way through this, but this is basically all across the country. They have been hearing sounds. They've been seeing explosions in the sky, light beams. I've had, you know, in our little WhatsApp group, I've had guys, you know, shout out to Byron, who's also Decoders of Truth. He put a bunch of pictures and images in there. And I think Jake Parsons, who's also in the group in the Decoders of Truth, sent authorities, quote unquote, media sources that are publishing this. But again, this is everywhere. New York City, Arizona, Seattle. So many theories have been put, you know, offered about. And, you know, I would think, you know, the scientific community would say it's, again, we're getting closer to the grand solar minimum. We're having all kinds of flashes with the sun. We're having, you know, a bunch of different, you know, climactic things with the ionosphere. You know, Gerald Clark talks about that, putting so much iron oxide and they're spraying in the stuff. So that could be causing them, you know, with the flashes of light and the amazing colored sunsets that we've all seen. Then we also, as you know, like 3 weeks ago, we posted those rainbow looks, you know,
yeah. In the sky. And dude, so I went through thunder snow the other night. That was weird.
Yeah. So again,
thunder and lightning and snow. There's
a lot of unexplainable phenomenon from a scientific side. But then that would be the scientific side. If you went to the truth or community side, the esoteric, the conspiracy side, I mean, a lot of people are saying that the sounds that you're hearing, and again, this would be a QAnon thing too, are the underground bases being destroyed. And
they're being destroyed or they're being tunneled out. Which one?
Both. Possibly, I would definitely say both, but possibly more building and more tunneling. That could also be possible too. Because let's be honest, right? We've talked about this, and again, I think this is on the what is it? What's the name of what's the Suspicious Observer? For all those people that are not following the Suspicious Observer YouTube channel, they've been doing some amazing videos on the Diehold Foundation, the micronova, the grand solar minimum, all that stuff. So go there, but. If they are knowing, Jeff, meaning the elites, the people in charge, you know, I use the word people loosely. If they do know that we're extinction level event, then it would stand to reason that they are furiously building more infrastructure underground. So it's probably one of those three, if not a combination of those three.
And that would also explain those, or could explain those like trumpet sounds, metallic screeching type sounds as well.
So there's one thing in here. In this article, I'm reporting this and calling up George Norrie at 5 a.m. This is like being reported all over the world.
And there's definitely some weird stuff going on, man. Just crazy stuff. And it seems to get crazier every day. Now, Jay, is this stuff new, or is it just now so much social media and everybody has a cell phone and we're just now hearing about it? Or do you think it's really new occurrences, or has this been happening all along? We're just now able to record it and make it known to everybody?
Good question. I mean, my heart tells me that the majority of this now is the energy around of the universe, of the solar system, of the planet. You know, people are quote unquote waking up. People are becoming more cognizant of a different meaning or a different reality. But I would think, to your question from a scientific angle too, I would believe that because technology is so much more ubiquitous and we have recording devices and all these other technology that's, you know, capable and everywhere, I would think that more people can report it. So I think that if you aggregated the intel, I would say that you could say both.
Yeah. And Nigel is advancing the theory that there's heaps of evidence to show that this is all old technology. So who knows? But whether it's old, whether it's new, it's definitely with us here today. And it surely makes you kind of go,
You know, the one thing too, and I guess I'll just announce it. So Jeff and I are going to have a person of clandestine background come on the show at the end of today in the last 15 minutes, if we can get him to come on the show and kind of talk about a theory that is going around right now in the blockchain cryptocurrency world. And this person is close to me and Jeff. We cannot name who this person is, but some people who do know me and Jeff know who this person is. And we're going to have him come on in 15 minutes and do like a real high level summary. But I posted this today in my email, guys, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a link again on Zero Hedge. It was on Twitter today that people are now saying that the dollar has pretty much lost its reserve. It's now losing its reserve currency status around the world. So if that is the case, I sent you that. Remember that earlier today, Jeff?
Yeah, I do. I do.
If that is the case, guys, we are on the precipice of something major happening in the financial markets. And this person who comes on later today with Jeff and I is going to talk a little bit about that theory. I'll just kind of put it out there right now, and then I'll save it. He can do all the thunder. But essentially, what's being talked about right now in the blockchain crypto world is who is going to vie for power when the fiat currency system goes away, which we all know is coming. Okay, we've talked about this on the show. The Economist in 1988 did the article about, with the eagle and the flame of the dollar bill and saying that digital currency was coming. We know it's coming. It's just a matter of when it comes. And my guess is it's going to come for sure within the next year. I would say actually probably this year. And if that's true, that the dollar is losing its reserve, status, reserve currency status, then that means that it's close.
So we don't think it's just going to switch over to the yen or another currency, that they're going to go from the dollar not being the currency anymore to a crypto.
Right. And this person, and this person is also was saying today, as you know, in the group, that the rumors are that the wall, is not really the wall. The issue isn't really about the wall. It's just kind of like a smokescreen, a facade. And then also the negotiations with China and the trade embargoes are actually real conversations with the Chinese about how this is all going to go down once the dollar collapses and they replace everything with some form of blockchain currency. Again, rumors, but rumors at a very high level inside those communities. So we'll share, I think, a little bit of that later in the show.
Well, why would the Chinese want to help us? Why wouldn't they just be better served to just sit back and watch it all implode and then just come in and pick up the pieces?
Because I think that's just that's our narrow matrix clouded version of things. I believe that there is no countries. It's all just the myth that we're all different. The people that truly, again, I use the word people loosely, but whoever controls the Maya is definitely all in league with each other. Just like Joseph said last week, right? There's secret societies, breakaway civilizations that fight amongst each other for hegemony, but it's really a small group, that just kind of moves the pieces around. And maybe is the Anunnaki or the fallen angels or the whatever you want to call it, the demiurgic energy. I mean, I don't really know. I don't think anyone does. It's impossible to figure it out, but I don't think that there really are, Europe and China and the USA and BRICS nations and Russians. I think it's just those are just the figurehead countries. It's just, we're playing Monopoly. Or what was that game? What was that game where it used to be countries? Risk, right? Was it Risk?
Risk was a good, yes. And Stratego.
Stratego, that's it. Dude.
Harry Christie says, could the wall really be Wall Street, a code to the crash? That's interesting. And I just had something on my mind and it slipped it, but that's okay. It'll get back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, as we always do in this show, Jeff, I don't want to go super deep conspiracy negative, because as you and I know, all we do really today now is trying to talk about what we can do, what we really truly have control over. Because all of the stuff that we're talking about is just, as Joseph Farrell would say, high octane speculation.
It is high octane speculation. That's really all it is. But, it's good to kind of talk about this stuff, to have some ideas and, have some, not just be hit, I guess, blindly by it. It allows us to at least think a little bit and to have some type of at least a mindset of, we know that something could happen. It's just, I don't know, man. It's very hard for me to imagine. And, Joseph, I think Joseph Farrell said it when he was with us. It's very hard to imagine people, going from having currency in their hands to not having anything tangible, and to do it just like that. It seems like there would almost have to be some type of a transitional phase, but these people are advancing just over, right?
Well, I think for us, I agree with you, obviously, but that's just our perspective. We're Generation X. I mean, dude, these kids today, if you moved everything to digital, it would be like a blip, a nanosecond for them. Yep. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
They have no frame of reference. They don't know what it was like. And I'm telling you, again, it always goes back to me as do these kids know what it was like to be broke, to struggle, to want for things? No.
Absolutely not. And Harry makes another good point that the credit card kind of transitioned us. And
right.
KW Harris says we already pay with our phones.
Yep, exactly.
So we really already are, I don't know if a majority of us, but I would say close to a plurality of people already operate by and large in a cashless society.
Jeff, they do. Listen to this, dude. My daughter's 9 and 11 years old. So I have them all weekend, daddy-daughter weekend, right? And I'm back on Saturday. We get home. It's a long drive back from Bakersfield. And I'm at home, and they're on their phones. And again, I did not give them phones. Their mom, my ex got them phones because she lives in Las Vegas, and she wants to be able to communicate with them.
I understand.
Monica and I said yes. And they're actually pretty responsible. We've done a good job, I think, in like training them about how they, where they get put away. Anyway, but the bottom line is dude, my 9-year-old daughter is on Uber Eats without my knowledge or without permission. And she's not ordering, but she's like, okay, Dad, here's what we can have. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, that looks good. I mean, so you're right, dude. I mean, it's already here. It's just that us old fuddy-duddy, folks, we don't get it because we're not in it like these young kids are. Yeah. But that's what they're always moving for.
And Shane says that he drives every day for Uber Eats to pay his bills, and there's absolutely no cash involved. And folks, dude. I'm getting ready to. I made my reservations to go to LeakCon in Denver, so we got that all set up, and I'm going back to Florida in March to have some fun back there and making some plans to go other places. And now they've taken Uber one step higher. There's a place called Turo, and it's the same thing as rental cars, only it's Uber, bro. So you can rent a car from just your regular bro, and it saves you tons of money. And guess what? No cash.
But let's be honest, dude. All these things, and again, I'm not talking smack about all of these things. I mean, it's going to all crash. I mean, there's no way that we can, like, how do I say it? Have so much competition where like 1 week later a model is done. It's toast. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no way human beings can grow and monetize and build businesses and create relationships when 3 weeks later or 2 days later or whatever it is, you just completely obsolesced a business model.
Yeah. Jay, when's the last time you wrote a paper check?
I still write paper checks to my house cleaner every week, but that's it. But that's it.
I can't remember the last time I wrote a check.
I mean, I write, that's the only time I write a check. And then I also write a check for this rental here because my management company is like, they're billionaires and they own like all the land in Covina. It's a McIntyre company. And like, they're so antiquated that they don't even have ACH. I just got in an argument with the rent management lady the other day because I dropped off the check like 4 days late because I was out of town. And I'm like, I pay everybody online. Why can't I do you? Well, you're going to have to go to your bank and get an ACH statement.
Oh,
like,
boy.
What? Anyway,
Jay, what would the Essenes have thought about all this?
Dude, I'm trying to find the one thing I wanted to read to you. I know I sent it to you in a messaging for some reason now.
And you talk about blowing somebody's mind, go in and pay cash and give them not just a 20, but give them, $20.02 to make up for it being, $10.98 and just watch their brains start melting and the smoke coming out of their ears. It's just ridiculous.
Dude, it is. I mean, they can't give change. Dude,
they can't.
Oh, here it is. I was like, why can't I find this? So anyway, we are talking, one of the bullet points, I'm sorry, I'm holding the book in my hand, is this Essenes book, which I've talked about, Jesus and the Essenes, Dolores Cannon. For everyone who's watching this podcast right now, you have to read this book. Okay. It's absolutely amazing. Basically, Dolores Cannon, who was a regression hypnosis, is very, very famous in the, our community, alternative research, esoteric, whatever you want to call it, the truth community. And she did a bunch of regression hypnosis with this girl named Katie, who was like a 22-year-old girl, wherever she was doing it, somewhere in the Midwest, I think. And Katie was actually her, soul. She lived many lifetimes, but at one time she was an Essene elder or teacher named Sudi. And Sudi was one of the teachers of Yeshua, or AKA Jesus, the Christ, not plastic Jesus that we all know and come to love from the Abrahamic religions. But
what's the name of the book, Jay, they're asking?
It's called Jesus and the Essenes by Dolores Cannon. It's absolutely.
Why does it have Fabio on the front of it?
Fabio? Oh, yeah, because, it's Jesus. Because, bro, plastic Jesus is ubiquitous.
Do you remember when Fabio got hit in the face with a goose on the roller coaster?
I actually met Fabio. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so there's so much knowledge just put forth in this book, you guys. Like, I mean, I've been mesmerized by it. I mean, other than the David Icke book that I read, which we never actually finished breaking.
Yeah, we got to get back into that.
Well, we owe David the conclusion. I think we
do.
did a great job because when you and I and Rex did that, we did a really high level summary of the whole book. But we really do need to break down the conclusion for David Icke's purposes, because David does offer a lot of like positive steps forward.
And David still needs to come on the show, and what's going to happen?
He should, yeah, for sure. That's all I'll say about that.
Exactly.
So something that comes from this book. So Jeff and I talk about, since we started the show, which, Jeff, do you realize, dude, we're getting close to 2 years with the show now. Dude.
No way. Really?
We started it in August of 2017.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
I know. I remember when Rex introduced us and we just picked right up. But anyway, so
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, check this out. So Jeff has been saying for the first 8 months that him and I did the show, when we were really talking about health optimization, and Jeff, changed his body and got into fasting and all this stuff. And we're always looking for that connection where because we knew, deep inside our hearts knew that you do have to physically optimize your vessel. Okay. But I never really thought, I know we had the great Manly Hall talked about maximizing the endocrine system and manipulating the endocrine system in the 1920s, way before the doctors and the optimization community figured it out. But this is something else. Now, again, you guys, I'm going to put forward this in a second, but I want to just share this with you out of the book. Now, this is, again, a teacher of Yeshua, an Essene elder. Now, the Essene elders were literally masters. So these were people who could, create the light body, as Gerald Clark always says, very, very deep meditators, could probably not be here, could probably actually leave their body, go somewhere else on the earth and have their physical vessels still here, sitting in a meditative state. This is how high level these beings were. So this is what Sudi said, and this is unbelievable. He said, so this was in reference. So they have a reference. This was a story of the Garden of Eden and the Tree of Life. But I just want to give you guys this real quick. I'm just paraphrasing this. But he said, so Dolores Cannon said, what happened when they ate the fruit? And Sudi said, it is said they were cast out of paradise and they realized that they had no clothes. And this was the bringing of shame unto the world. And since then, they have been trying to cover themselves up ever since. Now listen to this, folks. To have shame in the body when this is your temple is not a good thing. This is what God gave you to spend your life in. So again, the physical avatar body, this flesh puppet meat modem, okay? You must treat it well and treat it so that it will last you a lifetime. And to be ashamed of what is a God-given gift is a great sin. So again, remember, then this was the Essenes. The Essenes, by the way, are not religious, just so you guys know. The Essenes have nothing to do with religion, and it's all decoded in this book in way better ways than I can explain it right now. But sin comes from Hebrew, and sin for them is different, as Jeff knows, being the master religious guy. Sin is totally...
Jay, were the Essenes nudists?
They were not nudists. That's kind of a rumor, but they did do ritual bathing. They had a ritual bathing area. And in the bathing area, the women and men would always bathe nude, and they were not ashamed of that.
Right. Okay.
They definitely wore tunics.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, there it is. Right there. You have one vessel in this lifetime. If you're not going to maximize it, you're not going to take advantage of it. You're literally slandering your physical expression in the eyes of not just, your surroundings, but the creator energy, which is inside you, is everywhere around you.
And Mark Centersane asked, Jay, were the Essenes vegetarian or vegan?
So they were both.
Really? Okay.
And they did choose to eat meat when they had a necessity to eat meat. So here's my theory on the Essenes. And this is just me piecing things together. I have a feeling that the Essenes were actually in some way connected to the quote unquote lost tribes of Israel, which really nobody knows what the lost tribes of Israel really were. Okay. They could have been taken off world. They could have ascended to leave this world. I don't think that was them because there were too many of them that were physical beings that were living here. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm getting.
Did they believe in having sex, Jay? Did they like have babies and procreate?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. 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 They were not, like the Great White Brotherhood type or anything like that. They were not cults. They were not sects. They just did. They were like that statement you always make, Jeff. They were not of this world, but living amongst this industry.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So they had, the book towards the end tells you that there were probably sects of them in major locations around the world where there were population centers.
That makes sense.
They're pretty fascinating. I mean, when you read this book, it's my guess that they were the origination of the Gnostics, or the Gnostics came from the Essene.
I agree. And Samson was a Nazarite, not an Essene.
Right.
According to the scriptures.
This book is pretty mind-blowing.
Did they talk to animals and plants?
They did. They talk to animals and plants. They have the ability. Again, when you commune with all of life, they have a total respect of life. I mean, there's so many things, again, passages I've highlighted in this book that were so mind-blowing to me, but I think one of the great ones is just the idea that they say the same thing that we're always saying, which is, the method of what you and I always talk about, that I always write about now, and that it's all about love and service. And you can be a great thinker and a possessor of knowledge and deep research, but if you allow your brain to overpower your heart, all that knowledge that you learn and all that knowledge that you use is to no avail or to no good. And that's been my greatest lesson, I think, in this lifetime, is to realize that, my knowledge and the things that I know and I've learned in my study is not important, but what's important is service and love. That's what's important.
So you're saying that we should all try and develop, there's that word try, but we all should be about developing. I mean, we should all have a mission, right? We should all have a thing that we get up in the morning that drives us. And it's not just to make another dollar or to buy another Mercedes Benz, but we should have a mission that builds ourselves up and, more importantly, serves humanity. Would you agree or disagree?
No, 100% agree. That's everything, dude. And, the hardest part for most people is identifying their mission.
Yeah.
And again, as you and I have talked about many times before, and I've said in my various lectures and stuff like that, when I talk to people, is that your mission is not your husband or your wife. It's not your kids. It's not your job. It can be your job.
Right.
But most of the times a mission is what you do at your highest level of contribution.
I call it your great basic purpose. And
exactly. Your great basic purpose, but in the service of others. So like, for example, for me, I'll just read my mantra. I don't think I've ever read it on the show, but like every single morning, this is what I read. This is the first thing that I do. I say, I am joy. I am love. I am gratitude. I see, hear, feel, and know the purpose of my life is to optimize human health. I am powerful, persuasive, and intentional in all that I say and do, in serving God and walking the path towards spiritual enlightenment. I am what I am, and I am worthy of the abundance that is the universe and all that is in it, including me. And then I take like 5 to 7 deep breaths and I, just manifest that. And so I say that every day, and I have for the last 4.5 years.
And Jay, at the end, it doesn't say, and I'm so good looking.
No, but Monica believes that. Did you see what Monica posted on? I put it for those on my newsletter. You guys laughed today because Monica posted that, she was away from me this weekend. As my buddy George Cordova said, she just has separation anxiety, bro. But, she said that I was the hottest cheer dad.
Oh, nice. There you go. That's high praise.
She posted that on Facebook and tagged me in like a bunch of pictures from, one of the moms was sending her photos. So it's kind of funny. But it was cool this weekend for me to spend time with my daughters and like to see her win, to watch her get excited and, to feel that like adrenaline exhilaration through her when they were being announced as like the state champions, because they were vying with 4 other teams. They go in 4th place.
Oh, that's right.
And then they say in third place, and then they say and runner up. And then once they know they're champions, when they say runner up, they go nuts. It was like so cool, man. I had sweat like pouring down my body. All the moms were jumping up. Ah, it's like the end of the world. And, people were hugging me. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
And I just turned 55. And of course until I met you, I was really overweight. And I retired from playing hockey. And I got to tell you,
you're ready to go back, dude?
I miss that feeling. I miss that competition. I miss that winning. I miss having an 18-year-old kid, come flying down the ice on a one-on-one, and then I stuff him and he breaks the $75 hockey stick that his daddy bought him over the crossbar, and I'm just like all day long. I miss that. I really do. Is that ego?
Just miss it and think it, because I have so many of my friends, dude, who are like, dude, one of my best friends in the whole world, I'll give him a shout out, Ryan Galante. He's 50 and he's still playing and cross-checking. He's a beast. But he just destroyed his last good leg.
Oh, no.
But that's what I always say is like, look, man, just keep the memory.
Yeah.
Go back, because you're playing Russian roulette. Your body cannot handle that check that your head cashes,
Well, I'm a goalie, so I don't get checked much. But I mean, I go out there and for an hour on purpose, I try to get in front of 100-mile-an-hour rock. So how smart can you be?
Well, you probably can. If you're only a goalie, dude, maybe. I mean, if you could still bend over and crouch, I mean, your knees will take a beating for sure.
They do. Knees. It was hips and knees that made me quit.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. But
yeah, I miss the competition. I miss the thrill of victory, and you do miss the agony of defeat as well. And those of you that remember that are old. That's Wide World of Sports.
ABC Wild World of Sports, yeah. Yeah, dude, these kids today, they have absolutely no idea about any of that stuff. It's so funny when I mention some of these things, when I say those statements like that, and they just look at you with this like blank stare. Huh?
What? Yeah, it reminds me, I was in a relationship some years ago in Las Vegas with a girl that was significantly younger than me. And I said something one day about Captain Kirk, and she's like, Captain Kirk, who's that? And I'm like,
exactly.
Probably a little bit of a little too much age gap here.
Amazing. All right. Well, I'm going to send an email real quick to our mystery guest. And if he can jump on real quick, we'll allow him to jump on. It's still early, man. We've only been on for 35 minutes?
Yep.
I just sent it to him. Hold on. I'm just typing here too. There was something else I wanted to talk about with the Essenes though. They're the Gnostic stuff. That's what I wanted to get into. So like, if you really look at the Nag Hammadi, and then you start, Jeff, you start comparing it with and you might be more familiar with this than I have, because I just started reading it, but have you read the Essene Gospel of Peace?
I have.
Okay. So you then might be really fascinated to cross-reference that with the Nag Hammadi, because it seems like it's the exact same thing, but it looks like
it's very close.
Dude, it looks like somebody though, and that was the thing I was going to tell you, is that Sudi, this is what's so crazy about this book and why it's not a fraud. Is Sudi says, because she was reading to him some stuff from the Nag Hammadi in the end of the book, and he says that he can tell where the Hebrew was like overrun by Aramaic, by different writers and different hands.
Interesting.
Yes. So there
people ask me, they say, well, Jeff, how do you know when you're reading the Bible, what's the diamond and what's the dung? How do you know what's real and what's not real? And the only answer is you just know, because you're tuned in, you're in connection, and you just know this doesn't. Now there's literary clues because the writing style is different, the word usage is different, but you just have to know, you just have to build up that spiritual sensibility where you know what rings true and what doesn't ring true. And there's no pill that you can take. There's no shot that you can get. It takes time, and it takes devotion, and it takes dedication, and it takes doing the inside job. There's really no shortcut to ascension, and there's no shortcut to spiritual development.
No, there isn't. It requires work. It's just like, physically making your body leaner or more muscular or stronger. You have to put in the work every day, man. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. And Tracy makes a good point. The Nag Hammadis and the Book of Enoch, they were tampered with somewhat as well. There's not a book out there that you can pick up and say, oh, this book is the word of God. All I have to do is read it. No, it's still about doing your own research, guiding your own spirit, mastering your own ascension, being your own guru, asking questions, questioning answers. It's work, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Tracy knows that.
Yeah. What's up, Tracy? And guys, by the way, thank you guys for everything you guys are doing. I know there's tons of people out there. I know that there's a bunch of people. We're like it's like 64 people now that want to be in the group, like the private group that Jeff and I are going to create for The Last Stand. I'm sorry that I haven't been doing as much work on that as I want to get my optimization group more dialed in. So I know how to make it much more simpler and streamlined for all of you guys, but it will be coming. I promise you on that. So I thank you guys for that. What was I just going to say about the Essenes and the Gnostics? It just melted my brain. Well, what you said, Jeff, it's absolutely the truth. There is work that has to be done to go on this path, to walk this path, to carry yourself in this way. And I always give credit to my wife, Monica, because she used to, make that comparison to me. She would say, yeah, hold on one second. Sorry, he's messaging me.
Okay, cool.
I'll just tell him to come on in 5 minutes. She always used to tell me that. She's like, dude, you spend so much time, so much about the human body. You know how to get so lean. You know how to become muscular. You know how to look amazing. You know how to help other people look amazing. Do you really think that you're going to, walk the spiritually enlightened path or become a master or enlightened being or whatever without putting in at least a commensurate level of effort? And that used to just take me aback because I read so much, but how much actual work was I doing? I wasn't.
Well, in some sense, the reading is the work, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, the reading is definitely, that's a good point, by the way, too, because Gerald, was teaching me that about 5 years ago or 4.5 years ago. That it's not just reading it, it's applying it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
People make the mistake. I hear them quote this all the time. Jesus said the truth will set you free. No, he did not. He never said that. What Jesus said was, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So It's only the truth that sets you free. Truth by itself isn't going to help you until you start applying it.
Right. Exactly.
And that's true in optimization, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, any.
Yeah, 100%.
And I got to tell you, I'm just shocked how much your spiritual optimization is aided when you're physically optimized.
We both are living embodiments of that.
The Essenes have been saying that a lot longer than even Jay Campbell.
Yeah. I'm telling you, when I read that, dude, I was like, every light bulb in my body went off. I was like, oh my God, I got to send this to Jeff.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. Because honestly, I had never seen that.
True, hard path, but so rewarding. It's true. And she's been walking it as well.
But Jeff, I had never seen that connection like that physically on display. And, we're talking about, and again, we don't know how far back this really is.
We don't.
There's no way to know. You've got all these people talking about the mud flood and time has been reversed and the Mandela effect. And it just, I could come up with 10 other things, but we have no idea how many epochs of human civilization have occurred. There's no way to know.
No, and every time that we turn over another rock and we think, oh, here's the answers, you find more hidden under that rock that you have to find other rocks to turn over. And it's like the Russian dolls. You're just always discovering more and more and more and more.
It is. And let me just put this one thing up here. And I've read 9 pages of this book. Somebody, by the way, sent me this book. It's called The Book of Secret Wisdom, The Prophetic Record of Human Destiny and Evolution, translated from the Senzar, Senzear, by Zinovia Dushkova. So she's a Russian, I think. But
yeah, sounds like it.
Someone, I'm not kidding you, I said this today in the group, someone sent me this book completely privately. There was no return address. It was shipped from Amazon. There's no way. I actually looked it up. I tried to find out who it was. Sorry, I just knocked my monitor, knocked a water bottle over. I have no idea who sent it to me, but they just left me a note that said, you must read this book.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm 9 pages in.
Mud is the new flat earth. I don't know anything about that mud flood stuff. So
yeah. Look, this is my theory. That guy I told you guys, this guy Deke, we talk all the time on Twitter, and now we talk a lot back channel and stuff in private conversations. This is my theory, guys. It's the realm of the Maya.
What is the Maya? Please define that term.
So the Maya means it's a world of illusion.
Okay.
So Maya equals illusion. So the truth is that, again, if this is the realm of the demiurge, the false light AI, according to the Gnostic teachings, and the Essene too, then we are living in a world of, again, 3 dimensions where you can manifest any reality that you choose. It just doesn't take a thought though, right? It takes massive action and extreme intention. Okay. But if you believe it's a spinning disc, the heliocentric model of the Masons, then it is. If you believe it's a flat curved plane, then it is. If you believe it's a realm, where there's multiple dimensions and theories and realities going on all around us, the veil is that thin, then it is. I just believe that it's what you put thought into it. And if it's a simulation, then of course it's that.
I've always thought of that. I've always wondered with all of this, because, a lot of flat earth people are crackpots, but there's a lot of people that are thinking people, and there's at least a couple of them that are thinking people and still believe in flat earth. And I just think that if I went up in a craft with somebody that believed in flat earth, I look down on the earth, I would see a round earth. They look down on the earth, they'd probably still see a flat earth, and we're both still looking at the same thing.
Agreed.
Because and I've been up in an F-15, and I think I remember looking out and seeing curve, but I can't say that enough to say I do remember. And somebody's going to tell me it was the canopy, but I don't think so. But anyway, so I see that we have. Oh, that's just a note from you.
Yeah, that was a note, but I told him to log up now.
Okay.
So awesome. Guys, Nathan, we will have a surprise guest. His name is Nathan. That's all we can tell you, who will be coming on to talk a little bit about what we were talking in the earlier part of the show today. And he's extremely intelligent. So I told him that this needs to be a 7th grade summary so that all of us plebeians can understand what the hell he's talking about. So hopefully he will be joining us in a moment's notice. But yeah, Jeff, I think it's really any reality that we make it.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, because so there's really, is there even such a thing as objective reality, Jay?
No. If this is a simulation, which again, by all accounting purposes it is, and the guy that's coming on can talk a lot about that, then everything is just a series of 1s and 2s, repeating 1s and 2s. And so you can make anything possible by, again, dreaming it and achieving it, which is, again, dreaming and achieving is a lot of action and a lot of intention. And again, my life is proof. I can literally say that 5 years ago when I stood on that stage and I said, I am going to write the greatest book in the history of the world on testosterone optimization. And I had all these A-list executives and movers and shakers in, West LA and Hollywood looking at me like, you're not a doctor, you're a clown. And I'm like, okay. But it happened. So that's proof that you can manifest any reality. Now, look how much work I did to do that. That was a lot.
Absolutely.
Of work.
Absolutely.
But you can do that.
And
Jeff came second to Jerry Falwell. Right?
Jimmy Swaggart.
Jimmy Swaggart, same guy, whatever. But you did, right? You put
so much. Well, not second, but yeah. And our guest is here.
Awesome. Bring him in.
Should we bring him on?
Bring him on.
All righty, let's do it. Let's promote to panelist.
You guys are going to love this.
And he will be joining us momentarily. And I'm going to unmute him. Well, hello there. This is Jeffrey Daugherty. Of course, Jay Campbell. We're very glad to have you join us, and we want to welcome you to the show. And please feel free to bring us the information that you want to share in any way you'd like to do it. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much, Jay. Appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
What's up, brother?
So I was having an interesting discussion with Jay earlier tonight. Everybody knows, if you've been following Trump, Q, all of that sphere, there's always lots of chatter about the cabal being taken on in different ways, this and that. So the last couple of days, there's been some really interesting chatter where the pieces seem to kind of be coming together. Time will tell. The quick version of it is essentially that everybody's familiar with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and you've heard about Trump taking on the cabal, including the financial cabal. that's one of those things that usually sounds impossible. But if you follow the chatter, including some of the people who are highly involved with the development of the cryptocurrency world, it turns out that most likely the recent government shutdown really had nothing to do with the wall or any of the mainstream reasons for it. If you notice, one of the big things that was hyped about was that federal employees weren't getting paid. If you really dive into the mechanisms of how federal employees get paid, how the actual transactions take place, one of the reasons it was most likely actually done was that they were essentially doing a test on the payment systems to see how they can utilize them for a potential pushback against the cabal. Now, where that ties in is if you take a step back and you look big picture, basically the Federal Reserve, you have the US dollar. It's the global reserve currency. It's debt-based. If the debt doesn't grow, you don't have money. We won't go all the way down that hole. That's the 50,000 foot view. So the problem is, how do you get rid of that time bomb without it blowing up in your face? Well, the quick and dirty version is there's a financial collapse, implosion, calamity, whatever you want to call it. We all know it's just a matter of time, whether it's a week, a year, or a month, whatever. It looks like that's probably a key time for, we'll call it Team Trump, whether whoever you think him and his associates may be. When you hit that period of chaos, you have an opportunity. At that point in time, as everything's blowing up, think of the Lehman moment. Suddenly all the payment systems freeze. What do?
Boom.
Well, right. If you have an alternative prepared in the background that can be moved in almost seamlessly, you have the ability to sidestep the entire implosion. And if you're able to control the infrastructure that's moved into, basically whoever doesn't play by your rules gets to take their ball and go home. They're out of the game. So I won't go too deep into this, but if you pay attention to cryptocurrencies at all, you will see that Bitcoin has been branching left and right. There are reasons for that. And it's actually tied into what I'm talking about, a parallel infrastructure here. Now, at this point in time, it does not appear that Team Trump actually has full control of it. If you look at it, essentially both sides, once again, highly simplified here, the cabal and Team Trump have actively both been supporting development of cryptocurrency infrastructure. They essentially have to. That's for both sides. That's their only way out of the implosion that's coming. So it's kind of like you have a sinking ship and you have one life raft. So, you and I are going to both make sure that life raft is good to go. And we know we're going to fight to the death at that very last second because only one of us is getting in that life raft. So right now, that appears to be the case. So right now, it's still clearly the authorities could have crushed cryptocurrency at any point in the last 5 years since it really started to go mainstream, trivially. But if you notice, they're very carefully supporting it. The SEC has even made a point of telling cryptocurrency how to interact so that it doesn't cause itself problems.
Fascinating speculation.
A side note, and this is, I don't think anybody can fully substantiate this at this point, but if you know who Ross Ulbricht is, you might recognize the name from Silk Road. He was the person who the authorities claim was running it. Right now, if you listen to the deeper chatter, it actually looks like he was most likely framed because he was an asset, for lack of a better term, Team Trump in building the cryptocurrency infrastructure in their favor.
Fascinating.
I'm not saying he worked for Trump. Once again, I'm using those very broad terms to differentiate. But he was most likely with a group who had aligned interest.
Interesting.
Who do you think that would be, though, aligned interest? Do you think that's Jared Kushner and his boys?
No. Once again, I can't verify this, but if I had to bet $1, I think he is a legitimate mole, most likely aligned with the other side.
That Kushner's a mole?
Yeah.
Interesting. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Even people that really like Jared Kushner, anybody that observes it, I don't know. I think Jared Kushner gives everybody just a little bit of a creepy feeling that you just can't quite identify.
His interests are too compromised. Even if at heart he wanted to be on Team Trump, he's just too compromised to be able to really do that.
I would agree with that. I really would. There's a lot of people in this audience that are involved in crypto, and you may not want to answer this, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But with everything that's going on and swirling around, in your personal opinion, would you be more apt to invest in some crypto at this point or less apt?
Yeah, that's a hard question. The quick and dirty of it is that the powers that be from either side, Team Trump or the cabal, are going to have to choose a cryptocurrency that's already established and has the infrastructure developed to be able to jump to. I
would agree.
Hopefully you don't mind the language here. The common term shitcoin for all the little odd and end coins, it can't be one of those. The infrastructure simply doesn't exist. Bitcoin itself is unlikely for some other reasons. And that starts getting very technical. That's more likely to be a jumping off point.
You said Bitcoin itself is unlikely?
Unlikely.
Okay.
More for technical reasons. And so what that leaves you with is probably a handful of maybe 4 or 5 other coins that are high probability candidates. But, it's even beyond rolling the dice as to guessing which one it would be.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
I would say if you're educated in the realm, and if you're educated in the realm, you could probably name the 5 I'm thinking of off the top of your head. Then you know what? Yeah, throw $50 down in each one and don't expect to ever get it back. And you know what? You could easily see one, return 10 times what you put into it if you get lucky and nail that one. But you don't go putting the farm on any of these. That's just stupid.
Right. I would totally agree with you. on that.
So, bro, what is your prediction though? Just a wild ass guess. What do you think happens? Because you were the person that tipped me off to the dollar losing its reserve currency potential status today. What do you think that leads to?
Yeah, so I actually did gloss over that point. If you notice, all these pieces coming together is Zero Hedge and a few other outlets in the mainstream media have in the last few days, actually the last week or two, suddenly you see articles popping up basically warning you the US dollar is about to lose reserve currency. They're preparing people, so it's not a shock. It's low level enough that people, it habituates them to it. So my wild ass guess is in Trump's second term, honestly, I'd put $1,000 right now that he is a second term.
I would too. I agree with you.
Right.
And not because I like him, just the dynamics of the situation.
The last president.
Yeah. But in his second term, I think the implosion's gonna hit. And I think the infrastructure is being prepared for that. Now, realistically, what does that transition look like? If you look at the infrastructure that's being built and the discussions that banks are having, the really hypothetically cool thing about it is that the average Joe in the street sees almost nothing change. So the general mechanism is that you have what's called a bank holiday. Basically, they shut down everything. Banks are closed, ATMs are closed, no financial transactions are allowed at all. Kind of like what happened in Cyprus. It would probably last anywhere from a couple of days to about 1 week. It most likely would not last longer than that. And then when everything reopens, from your and I perspective, we're still using Visa, your credit card, your debit card. Now with cash, you would probably have an exchange where it would, if people know the financial history of the U.S., you used to have greenbacks, which are treasury notes, and all the cash now are Federal Reserve notes. You would most likely have an exchange because the Treasury would be issuing new paper currency. For the average Joe, it'd still be $1. but instead of being backed by debt through the Federal Reserve, its inherent value would be backed by the value of this cryptocurrency, which would have to be accepted by multiple international partners.
But do you think that cryptocurrency, and by the way, somebody very smart, I'll just give this name out there, but somebody very, very smart told me that if he was to bet, it would be Bitcoin SV. And again, I'm not a crypto guy, but he tells me that that's the real Satoshi, but I don't want to go off track. So would that cryptocurrency have to be collateralized by a physical asset, such as a precious mineral like gold?
No, it wouldn't. If it's collectively agreed upon that it's the go-to currency, that it's the functional new reserve currency by a group of global trading partners who control enough of the global trade market, then it's the de facto global currency, the same way the US dollar is now. Now, to that point, look at Trump's recent trade missions, and especially to China.
Right.
If you really look into the details, there are signs that it's not what is being presented in public. And this is just one more of those pieces. On its own, it doesn't mean a whole lot. But when you start putting all these pieces together, it makes sense. As a very real possibility that a lot of these discussions, it's not about the price of corn or how many automobiles are being imported. No. All these players are not stupid. They know the debt's going to implode sooner rather than later. And it's suicide for all the major economies if they don't have a plan B. And nobody wants it to be left holding that basket.
Right,
so,
right.
Look, I may be Trump, you may be the Chinese, and we may hit each other's guts, but neither of us wants to burn to the ground. So what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen?
So what do you think then about, and this is all fascinating, by the way, and thank you so much for coming on, dude. This is awesome. We got a lot of people asking questions and watching, and thank you guys for watching. But what do you think about, because again, I always bring up John Maudlin, and we share a lot of his stuff. He keeps saying that there is going to be a great global jubilee. And for you guys that don't know what that means, Jeff could talk about that, but the Hebrews and other cultures a long time ago would have every 5 years, they would just forgive everybody's debts.
About every 50 years or so, Jay.
Every 50, whatever it was, right. But the bottom line is we now know from what I've read, and no one even knows this, by the way, because it's just an estimate, but supposedly the global cumulative debt, everything, personal, uncollateralized, collateralized, business, and student loan debt is almost $45 trillion.
Try 200 trillion.
200 trillion. You're right. I thought I was going to say, I wanted to say 245, but you're right. It's 200 trillion. So how can that be eradicated off the books? Now, remember last week, Jeff, Joseph Farrell talked about the only way you could collateralize it would be to mine asteroids, right? Because of the precious minerals. So is it possible then to forgive that? What, in your opinion, is it even possible? Would they allow that?
So that's the big question. I don't think you would have a full jubilee. We wipe everybody's record. That would cause too much chaos. I think more likely what you see, it also just causes jealousy. So right. if I owe 200,000 student loans and you owe nothing and I get my debt forgiven, you're sitting there saying, where the hell is my check for 200,000?
Exactly.
You cause social chaos. But one route you can look at doing is, hey, guess what? Dump all the student loans, it basically toxic debt. Look at the debt that's most likely to implode your society, cause financial problems. Dump it on your central bank the night before, and then you promptly nuke your central bank because you say, oh, the Federal Reserve, you owe all that money to the Federal Reserve. Well, it's bankrupt and it doesn't exist anymore. So guess what? That debt's gone.
Interesting.
Last question, we'll let you go and we'll shut her down. Do you think the central banks are eliminated with if this does happen and they do move to a blockchain? Because theoretically, there is no need for any central banks with cryptocurrency, correct?
Well, in theory. In practice, you do need some sort of you don't want a single central authority. Essentially what you want is a true American central bank, Chinese central bank, right, because they're each going to have slightly different interests and you want them competing to a degree.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point.
And it also, the issue with global systems is you blow it up anywhere and everybody blows up. If you keep at least some degree of separation and China blows up, it hurts us a little bit, but our financial system doesn't burn down too.
All right, one more question for you. I lied.
Go for it.
When is America in flames?
Well, I think personal guess, it's going to happen in 3 phases. First phase is this transition we're talking about, which my guess is around 2021. I don't think it'll make it much past 2021. Second phase is probably around 2023, 2024. We're getting into some other social issues I won't go into at the moment, but there's some bubbles that start popping then. And then around 2027, that's when you're going to start to see, in my opinion, a breakup of the U.S., the beginning phase of it.
What does the breakup of the U.S. look like? Just states becoming their own governing bodies?
Yes, essentially the power of the federal government will have waned so much that all of the financial and social promises that are pushed on the states by the federal government are just ignored because it's not possible to do it. So at that point, you have local cohesive cultures come together. It may be 2 or 3 states. It may be 1. It'll be more regional. So like the Southwest, you would see them coming together. The Northeast New England, obviously they have common interests. It'll be based on cultural and financial common interests.
Don't hate me if I'm rooting for that.
Right.
It's realistically, that's better for everybody because the other option is, more like a Balkans nasty civil war. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Well, all I hear when you're saying that is the South will rise again, cousin.
Brother, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. You were phenomenal. That was absolutely epic. I think we'll bring you back with a fake name next time because it says Nick Andrews right on the screen.
It's all good, man. I don't have anything to hide.
Awesome, man. Everybody's like texting me in the background. His real name's on the screen, dude. Like,
well, we didn't know it was his real name until you said it was, Jamie. Maybe that we could have thought that was a pseudonym.
I mean, he's,
Or maybe you're saying that because it really is a pseudonym. I see how it goes. Well, Nick Andrews, or whatever your name is, thank you so much for being with us and lending this behind-the-scenes expert advice. We really do appreciate it. And Jay, as always, thank you for being here, my brother. And why don't you take us out today?
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Nick, thanks for coming on, bro. It was awesome. Good talking to you. You were amazing. Guys, honestly, we are, as Jeff always says, this is the last stand. We are the last stand of real humans. It's incredibly, incredibly important to serve your purpose and a higher mission. Hopefully you have your mission identified, but every single day, whatever you do, that you do at your highest intention, do it with service and love. And most importantly, do it with no attachment. That's pretty much all I got to say. Realistically, please support Jeff's work, support my work, go to our sites, take advantage, be on our group, be on my newsletter list, and make sure that you support Jeff's work, through contributing through his YouTube channel and also buying his products and books.
And for Jay Campbell, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. For our special guest, thanks for being here tonight. You're really the special guest because without you, it's not much of a show. We appreciate you all very much. Appreciate you as well, Jay. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Awesome. You guys all take care.